So what we're going to be looking at now is having a look at project 2. So, yeah, I know it sounds a little bit, a little bit early. Like you're still thinking about project 1. But I think if we do that introduction to project 2 now, then we're not doing that. Like, we're using our time efficiently. Basically, is the plan, because you're not ready to do building design consult today. So. Bring up that project 2 procedure document. So with project 2, once again, same scenario. You're the drafter working for a person who's doing most of the specification, building design, engineer, architect, etc. And this building in this form might not. Is that familiar to anybody in that form? No. If I have a floor plan,
vaguely, I've seen
vaguely.
before. I'll make a better one we used last year.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same.
No. So what you've seen in materials and methods is actually that floor plan with a different roof on it, and the walls carried down to the sides.
Correct.
So you've seen that building before, and you would have seen it in compliance as well. That's the whole idea, is that you keep using these same buildings. So much of those things you learnt about in compliance, once again, relate to this building. So what we've got, so the client requires an apartment block to be converted to allow for disability access to the upper floor and disability access apartment created by converting 2 apartments into 1 apartment.
Oh, hallelujah!
Yeah. So and this sort of, well, that type of scenario is not a typical scenario, but the scenario whereby you've got an old dilapidated block of flats that needs freshening up and separate title created, and in order to sell them off, is a very common scenario. There was, in South Australia, there was a big run on all this in the late 90s, early 2000s, where lots of this was happening, but still you get dribs and drabs of this happening. So the unit development is to be upgraded to standards suitable for the locality, and is to include air conditioning appropriately sized for the units. So you've actually got an existing building, it sits on an allotment. When you have an existing building sitting on an allotment, that means it can't be moved. So you're not worried, you're not moving buildings around, you're not changing orientation. What you've got is what you've got. So the lower level garage is to be enclosed on 2 sides and adequate parking for the residents, allowing for disability parking and visitor parking to be designated on the plans. So through this process, you'll be working out what you can do to renovate this block of flats. You'll be looking at ensuring there's fire separation walls between each. Now, we can't go on site and inspect. In fact, this building doesn't even exist. And the site, as you get it from here, doesn't actually exist either. Right? We'll give you an address, but you're going to have to put in notes to say, that these fire separation walls meet the required FRLs for that class of building. You're also going to have to work out how you can provide disabled access to the apartment. Now, you've got 4 apartments here, but then you're going to knock a wall down in one of them to create a larger apartment for that disabled access. You have to ensure that your door widths are adequate, that your travel distances to required exits are adequate, and that there's adequate access for disabled people, and we'll be going through that more and more as we work through. Then you're also going to be working out your car parking and working out how you can provide car parking. So the best place to provide car parking, I think, pretty obviously is going to be under the building. But what the client is also wanting to do is enclose this building on two sides as well. The property is located on Kincaid Road in Henley Beach South, which is a bit of a windy area. It's where you get wind off the seas, and the client wants to enclose those lower areas to protect from that wind. So, yeah, is there a question? No.
Do we have a site plan so we know which way it's facing?
Yes, so you get a site plan, and you get that site plan. Let's have a look at the learn page. I need to refresh my memory on that. Yeah, I'll open that one up. No, it's not. This one, I think you get your site plan as the Revit model,
Okay.
don't you? You must. Yeah, it's with the third project that you get your site plan with the arborist report. So this one must come with the Revit model. So yeah, so that'd be it there, but as a 2017 file. So you get your site plan there with that. So as I mentioned before, being an existing building, you can't choose where that building is on its site, and you'll notice that it's set in a way that will cause issues.
Of
Right?
course.
Yeah. Now I'm not going to go through I don't want to give the game away too much, but there's going to be issues that arise from the location of that building. Also, you'll notice, and let's have a look at our property. Oh, it's not typing. Oh yeah, no, it is. Yeah, it's just a bit delayed. 3 King.
There isn't really much of a site plan in the Revit.
No, you get an outline and you get a couple of little openings where the driveways are. That's it. And go back. See if I can get it. Maps. Does that let me? Do I get allotment? No. Anyhow, so what I won't spend too much time on it. What I wanted to illustrate is that this is our property here, number 3 Kincaid Road in Henley Beach South. So it's down near the beach, down near where the Torrens opens out to sea, etc. But in real life, it's actually a long, skinny allotment. With your Revit model, it's a wide, fat allotment. So quite a wide allotment with a large frontage. That means that when it comes to doing your locality plan and placing the adjoining dwellings on there, you can't just grab from Google Earth or SA Map Viewer and put them in and trace them around. You have to trace around those buildings and then move them across a little bit. So, yeah, stretch reality a little bit, make your allotment wider and put your project in there. So the allotment boundaries in the Revit model are a long cry away from what they are in reality with that particular address.
So basically, players just chop up your image that you've nicked off Google Map,
Yeah.
and then just move bits and pieces until you've actually got the
Yeah.
surrounding
Just
image. Just pretend.
Yeah. The main thing I'm trying to head off here is people go, this site plan on Revit, it doesn't match at all the allotment in real life. So just clarify that for you, it will not. So we're just using the address. So it's entirely about having that address, and it's imagining that there is an allotment of this shape at that address with an old block of flats on it that need to be upgraded. So develop existing class 2 accommodation model to meet requirements of your site analysis. So same as with project 1, you're doing your desktop research, and I forget what the other one's called, but you're doing task 1 and task 2 research on the property. So all the council requirements, and then all of the information about the allotment. Site analysis notifications. So you'll get additional information as this comes through. You'll make your own material selections, and so you'll think about that. So what we're doing, we're upgrading a block of flats. Just have a think about the practicalities of that, and think about what works. This is a chance for you to get as creative as you wish with your material selection for that. You'll be working with demolition, because we're at least taking down a wall to make one apartment wider. Now you can choose which apartment you want to do. So that's up to you. Another thing you'll notice about the Revit model for this is it doesn't have any stairs anywhere. So the building just doesn't include stairs. Let's just assume that it used to have an external staircase, which has now been demolished. So there's no stairs, so you'll have to put stairs in there. Because you're putting stairs in there, you have to think about rise and run of stairs. Now we can go through all that in the class. Do you guys know that fairly well already?
Yes, very much. All of this stuff, I mean, this is really an easy project for me, because I'm just looking at it and going, well, I've already I already know exactly what problem this building is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of that.
Great. So I can help you all through that, and we can work through all those stairs. But look, if I'm labouring on that too much, just stop me, because what I've been finding is that you guys are covering a lot of really good pertinent stuff in compliance, and often a lot of this stuff is actually you covered it fairly well already. So you've got to put stairs in there. You've got to calculate the rise and the run of those stairs and fit them in. And I want those staircases to be compliant. In fact, no, those staircases must be compliant.
So you have to put the staircase.
Yes, you've got to put staircases in.
As well as the fire.
Yes, so with any building, you have required exits. And actually, can anybody enlighten me as to what classification of building this one is?
Oh gosh, it's class 2.
Yeah, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, class 2. In a class 2 building, you've got 2 choices. You have to have a required exit from any building at all. In case of fire, even if it's on the ground, you have to be able to get out of it. Right? That's pretty simple, because you're going to have a door into a building anyhow. But you've got to have at least one required exit. Now, if you're at ground level in a class 2, that required exit can be 30 metres from the furthest point. You're allowed 30 metres. If it's up off the ground, then it's 20 metres to the nearest exit that discharges onto a street. But you have 6 metres to travel to that 20 metres if you have 2 exits. So if you have 2 exits, you get 26 metres. If you've got 1 exit, you've only got 20 metres to that. And if you're on the ground floor, you've got 30 metres. Simple? Yeah. But the main thing is you need at least, you need to have 1 exit, at least 1 exit. Now this building, to give the game away a little bit, it is possible to get away with 1 exit, but you have to really muck things around a bit to get away with only having 1 exit. Yeah, we'll go through those exit travel distances, etc. Staircase, construction, and so on. When you're done with project 1, we don't really get too nitty-gritty with all that right now. So you've got to put stairs in there, and you've got to decide how those stairs go. And one of the tricky bits is working out how those stairs interact with your car parking underneath. The way I think it's good to approach a project like this is start with the big picture and then move to the small picture. Right? So start with all the big stuff and then move to the small stuff, keeping in mind that you're allowing enough space for all that small stuff to happen. So what I would start with, I'd start with my driveway access and my car park layout at the bottom. I'd make sure those things work whilst keeping in mind that I'll have some staircases there. Then design my staircases and make sure that that interaction between the car parking and the staircases works suitably, and there's sufficient space for navigation of disabled people upstairs. And then once you've got those big picture bits in place, then the rest is quite a bit simpler. So you're putting in stairs, but yeah, one of the great nemesi maybe, I don't know. Nemesi is it like of a disabled person is stairs. So I don't. Is that the conjugation of nemesis? I don't know.
I've got no idea whether it's Latin.
Yeah. But anyhow, disabled. Like if you're in a wheelchair, you don't like stairs, right? So we're going to have to be putting in a lift as well. You'll notice in the Revit model there is actually an indicative location for a lift already, but the Revit model being as it is, that lift doesn't go to the floor. So you're going to So let's just assume that you're working for a company that had somebody working for them that got a better job elsewhere or whatever, nicked off, and they left this Revit model a complete mess.
A really crappy Revit model, and they've got a promotion.
Yeah. Anyhow, so you're taking this project on half baked. So you've got this lift there. Now that's only an indicative location. You can decide to put that lift anywhere you want to. So think about how that interacts with your car parking space and your space upstairs, and then include that lift. If you want to, I think it's currently just a single door lift, so it opens on one door. If you want to swap it around, have a dual door lift, so it opens in one direction at the base and opens at another direction at the top, that's fine. You allow you a decent amount of creativity in this, that's fine. But beware that what you have to do when you get to building rules consent is provide sections of the lift, etc. So all of that information for that, you'll probably want to choose a lift from a lift manufacturer that has really good details already that you can drop and put in. So that might be the deciding factor as to what you choose to go with. So then you're to enclose the lower section as well. And so in enclosing the lower section, I think it's safe to assume that we have a concrete slab car parking base down beneath, and then we can mount off of that any walling system that we want for enclosing the lower section. The main driver of your decisions probably around walling systems for enclosing are going to be fire safety and aesthetics. How it works with the building. So we've got a really old brick veneer upper, like block of flats, brick, like let's call them cream brick, block of flats. You want to find a material that works in well with what you're doing with that existing building.
Can we not change it?
You can change it.
Can we render it or something?
Definitely, by all means. Yeah, you can get those cream bricks and you can render them, and then you could do.
I presume our client wants to make a lot of money out of this.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a really good exercise, and it's an exercise that you get to muck around with without actually spending any money, any real money. So it's a good opportunity to do that. So yes, one of the things you might do is go, well, we're rendering all the brickwork, and then we're just doing tilt-up Hebel panels at the base. Put them in a C channel, Well, oh, sorry, no, angle at the bottom. Oh no, yeah, that's right. Yeah, C channel at the bottom, angle at the top. Put your heating panels in, and then render those as well. You might do that, or you might use different materials. You might, do a render at the top and then colour bond cladding down the base, or anything. So have a think about materials and finishes and things like that you want to do on this to dress it up. Rendering brickwork's probably a good idea because that enables you to go moving windows around wherever you want, because it will hide a multitude of sins behind that.
The knockdown process.
What's that?
When you say multitude of sins, you're talking about the knockdown process,
Well,
not matching bricks and all that.
Exactly, not matching bricks. Because trying to match bricks is, it's going to be a nightmare for like 1960s, 70s.
We don't care how much of a nightmare it is for the builder of it. But it's not happening, so may as well just do whatever you
Yeah, well, that's
not
all.
trying to make
That's,
any friends.
yeah.
So.
That's also possible.
Can we move internal walls?
You can move internal walls, yes. Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
not just, because I know that building, and, I know that building.
Yeah, you know that floor plan, yeah.
I get the disability one, that's, okay, but then with the other two, if we're moving, there may be a lot to be gained from moving internal walls.
Yes,
And
yeah.
sort of like, just offsetting different elements of different, of the two units that are left.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Yep. One solution that one student came up with last semester was a lot of moving walls, and came up with a much better, really functional floor plan that would, I think, make their client a lot of money.
Right.
By doing so.
And that includes those intersections?
Yeah, that includes.
Right.
Yeah.
Everything from here up is non-structural and can be just moved around as needed. Just assume.
Yes, let's assume that's non-structural. So I don't know if this. I'll see if this this computer and this screen actually has Revit on it. We'll see if it opens up.
So did you say it's existing? Like it's not like the last project how we just had the plans to alter the house didn't exist yet. This, whatever the plans say now, it's there.
Yes, exactly. So what the plans say it is.
So is that as far as like what you're submitting to council? Like obviously if there's already an existing building that they've approved once upon a time, like why do you still need to do like another site analysis, like locality plan, like if you're not exactly introducing anything new outside of the building envelope, like?
Because what you're doing is you're creating separate title for these units. So whenever you take a block of flats to being separate units, you have to apply for planning approval to do so.
Also, you've got to think about, right, if you're moving things around, and also pretty much every council, and it's probably in South Australia, because every council DP is required for private outdoor space. Right? Now you're going to have to start thinking about that, thinking about overlooks, and thinking about how that creation of private open space may affect your neighbours. And those sorts of things that will actually have an impact upon, and if there may be private open space in there, but if there isn't, you're going to have to think about it.
That is an important thing to look at. With this project, project number one is really simple in terms of council and planning, etc. It's something which is completely appropriate for the planning and for the zoning and the locality. Super simple. This one gets far more complex in regards to requirements for private open space and requirements for car parking, because the requirements for private open space hinge upon the number of bedrooms that you have in a unit. So you need to dissect the council-wide objectives a little bit more for this in your planning of what you're going to do, because it has further implications.
So it's going from like being someone owns the whole like block of flats and they're renting each thing out, to now it's like people can buy and they own that
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. So So it's creation of separate title.
Yeah.
So yeah, and we still have that going on. So as I said, there's a flurry of that in the late 90s, where people were buying blocks of flats, renovating them, putting in fire separation walls, getting separate title issued and selling them off, and making lots of them. That's still happening in dribs and drabs now. Yeah, where
It's funny how it would make a difference because either way, the people don't like. It's not like all these next door neighbours are all one big family just because someone owns the whole thing. Like it's still like those same rules should still apply just because there's someone's renting it rather than owning it as a separate title. Like,
yes, I know. Yeah. But it's like a lot of these rules in that, like say if you own a shack on the river, you can't freehold that until you've put in an appropriate septic system that's above the 1956 flood or so. So yes, that's got nothing to do with the fact that separate title is created and you can freehold and borrow money from the bank to buy it. Like septic tank has got nothing to do with that, but that's the carrot and the stick approach.
Isn't it about old legislation and old title styles?
Well, what it's about is that so many things used to be allowed. There was quite a bit more open slather previously. So previously you didn't have to have fire separation walls between sole occupancy units. But then when that comes into place, if you want to, so you need to get planning approval and building rules consent for whenever you create separate title for something. So because you need to go through that planning process, means you have to get those fire separation walls in there to meet the National Construction Code to then do that. Yeah, so it's about meeting current standards. And all of these new standards that come in, all these new requirements end up making things more difficult for conversion of properties into residences, etc. as we go on. Like the requirement for a vapor-proof membrane underneath a slab. That means that you can't just go get an old factory or something like that and go, right, I'm going to make this a residence, because there's no vapor-proof membrane under the slab, unless you have an engineered response to that to meet the NCC. That's sort of what we're dealing with here. Is that you want to create separate title so you can sell these off separately. Because let's say that place as a block of flats. Look, it's really hard to put a value on a block of flats because not many of them are sold on the open market. But let's say that block of flats is worth $300,000 as a block of flats for somebody who wants to rent them out separately. But then as a block of units with separate title might be worth 1.2 million. So there's obviously that that $900,000 gap between the something that can be let out and only let out, or something that can be sold separately. So that's Now, what do I want? Forget what we've got to be.
So we've got a lot of money to work with then.
Well,
$900,000.
Yeah, I was just pulling figures out of the air, but you can see how that had happened. That if we've got Henny Beach South, we've got these little bedsit units, they might be worth $400,000 each. Maybe that's a bit of a stretch. Or no, $300,000. No, probably $300,000. We've got four of them, 1.2.
3.2.
But yeah.
But because you can only let them out, and they're pretty shit.
Exactly.
Nobody's going to pay more than sort of like 250, 280.
And then you've got the hassles of letting out all those units and it being, how to say, a market for people who may not be paying rent. Much more management involved in sort of the lower levels of housing. So they don't have a lot of value in that. So that's what we're doing. Was our going to find out? I can't remember what I needed to to look at now. Anyhow, so that's our model. That's our site. Oh, there we go. And we've got these 4 units in there. So they're bedsit units, and you're going to knock out a wall. Now, I'm not going to tell you which wall to knock out. Let's say we're knocking out this wall here. Take that one out. You open this up. Means you've got a lot more space. So as with your first project, you got to produce a 3D view of the premises. I'd say that till last. Do that last. That's one of those things that you can be mucking around with materials and presentations, all that sort of stuff, until the last minute. Obviously, yeah, client's name, project title, student details, sheet schedule, all fairly simple. Site analysis, neighbouring structures. So have a look at how close those neighbouring properties are to the boundaries. So those boundaries, yeah. No, I don't have a pen. So those boundaries, yeah. Assume that our allotment is a lot wider, and those neighbouring buildings are set off to the same extent. Show you services, vegetation, fence, shadows. Being an existing building, being where it is, of course, overshadowing, like we can't really control that. What we can control is overlooking. So the council might say, yes, you can do that, but we don't want you having that window there. So overlooking we can control, overshadowing we can't. Site plan, contours. Assume this is a very flat site. So if we look at this on SA Map Viewer, you'll notice that there's very few contours through that space there. It is a very flat site. So it can be dead flat if you wish. Dimension north indicator. Site access egress from roadside and around site. It's going to be slightly simpler than project 1 in that regard, but you've got to have to think about your driveway access and how that interacts with your car parking. So proposed garage plan layout enclosed on 2 sides. So you get to choose which sides you enclose on that. And so you put that to your client and say, I think we should enclose these 2 sides. Floor plan, fully dimensioned, etc. That's fine. Right, that's right. On the Revit model, what I did want to show is we can treat all these walls here as non-load bearing walls. So all those walls through the centre there as non-load bearing walls. I'd treat this wall along here as a load bearing wall. And then I'd treat this wall along the front here as a load bearing wall as well. When we get the section through here, you see there's no actual detail about how this roof exists. And look, and there's got to be a bit of suspension of reality in that, because it's actually a very shallow roof that's spanning a long distance. I think it's sort of probably physically impossible, but let's leave it at that. Let's assume this one's load bearing.
So that
through
means
that
we
plane.
can't move that.
What's that?
So that means we can't move that one.
No. Well, you can. Right. The way what you'd have to do with that though is you have to put in large lintels, and you've got your ground level. And if I zoom in, you've got columns here. So that they're transferring load down to footings. So think about your columns. With your car parking, look, you can take out a column, but I suggest you don't. So so engineering wise, yes, you could move a column from here, and then you put in a large lintel that spans over to.
What's the space between those columns?
Do I have dimensions? No, I don't. Can't remember. But it's about 3 meters, I think.
Look, if it's 3 meters-ish, that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah. Oh, look, they do become really annoying. The car parking. I just
4.2.
4.2, is it?
4.2 meters?
Yeah.
You've only got to get...
And what, with the 2 car parking is 4.8? 2.4 wide?
5.2 by 2.44.8, which is a bit of an irritation, isn't it? Yeah. But it's only three. It's only 3 units.
Yep.
So.
Yep. 3 units and 1 visitor car park. Visitor car park doesn't have to be under the main area. So you will. There is a lot of space to play with. But you've got columns and things like that. There's plenty of ingenious solutions to all that. But I'll let you guys work through that and run with your imagination and your creativity on that. But I think steer away. Like, try to constrain yourselves to we have structural elements there being columns and load-bearing walls. Don't muck with those too much. Once again, select appropriate standardised doors and windows, except that we're working with an existing building. If you're not changing your doors and windows at the front there, I'm fine with them being what they are. So if we're not upgrading doors and things, leave them as they are.
From like a demolition plan perspective, like, do we need to have a demolition plan for each sort of view, like for the elevation showing if or just like a floor plan that is the demolition plan?
So, with this project, floor plan works with the demolition plan.
Okay.
So you can show everything you need to demolition-wise with that floor plan. And previously students have done phasing of the project to do that. So they'll have a building phase, a demolition phase as new. With this, so you'll be doing a longitudinal section through bathroom, shower, floor trap, stairs, and lift. So for planning approval, I'm not expecting a great deal of detail in regards to that lift, but there are lift details there available for you from JPS lifts that you can import. So when you do task 4 and you do that quiz, one of those things you get access to is lift information and things that you can import. Roof structure, wall structure, floor structure, that's about notating for fire resistance levels. So just ensuring we have adequate fire resistance in you specifying materials and construction. Once again, on the outside of the building, labelling what sort of cladding, etc. So you're going through the lift, you're going through the stairs. So that cross section through the stairs, you'll show what your riser and your run are of your stairs, and I'll be checking that that riser and run is compliant. And also the other thing to do is don't just go, all right, a 190 rise and a 240 going, right, and just go and do that, and then find out you're this much away from the top, and go, all right, well, we're going to have a 30 mil step at the top. None of that. I want things to match up. But then you're also going to be dealing with putting in shower floor trap and showing slopes. Now, for those of you doing the building rules consent, you'll be working through adequate, or in project 1, you'll be working through adequate floor slopes for wet areas and going through that. For those of you doing planning approval, if you want to, at this stage of the project, detail up your bathroom and get your floor slopes and everything in there as compliant, it's probably not a bad time to do that. And on Mondays, I think Monday's lesson, I'll be going through those slope relationships for floors with building rules consent students. So if you wanted to do that at this process, that's also good to get in. Cross section through the balcony wet area. So roof structure, wall structure, floor structure, once again about FRLs. And then you're going to have to put some details on here. So wet area, what your wall linings are going to be. So you'll need moisture resistant plasterboard or fibre cement sheet wall linings. wall and floor resistant waterproofing requirements, type and heights. So, yeah. Shall I probably, because you guys have to do that. Possibly, actually, some of the students are doing building rules consent only from our planning classes last semester know the waterproofing requirements really well. What might work really well for us next week is to actually go through those waterproofing requirements with all of you in the planning approval class. So, because for the planning approval stuff, without having to do the details of it, it's going to be really simple if you're just referring to AS 3740 and taking snips of those details in AS 3740 and importing those. But still, you need to know where to find those things. At that same time, I can go into more detail that'll help you guys out for building approval. And that means in that afternoon class, I'm not repeating a lot of stuff for the building rules, only people who know those details really well. Then screed, gradient of floor set down. So that's one thing that you have to think about with your bathroom planning is how much set down you require. For this building, let's just assume that the slab is thick enough that we're not going to be hitting reinforcing when we put the quick cut saw in there and chip out the floor. But that's what you'd do normally if you're going to be renovating a place, creating a set down. And installation of puddle flange. So we'll talk about what puddle flanges are. And then the tiling.
I don't know that detail. You're literally saying that with a building like this where it's got an established concrete floor, you just basically cut out.
Yeah, two ways of going about it. One way is that you build up your bathroom floor towards the edges, and then when you open that bathroom door, you have a step up, right? That's the cheap way of doing it.
And it won't work for disabled.
That won't work for disabled. Spot on. So that's the cheap way of doing it, and you see that done around the place with bathroom renovations. People just build up their floors, and at the bathroom there's a step up. It's but it's not a nice detail. The best way to go about it is if you actually chip away that floor and you set that floor down, and then you do.
What if you batten out what if you do the set up, but you batten out your flooring? So that and then say use something like timber to take that.
Well, that'd be absolutely lovely. Then there's implications for your skirtings all the way around and all your architraves, and then when you enter the front door, you've got to step up.
There's always going to be implications.
Yes, exactly. Definitely you could do that as well. Yeah, certainly. Yeah, you could batten out and do.
And you could actually have a run in the front door so that you've actually got a rack.
Yeah.
Because it's only 50 mil, it's like not a huge rate.
Yeah. So that's another way. Yeah, certainly another way of doing it. Or another way you could do it is with your bathroom, you have no set down and you have no floor trap, and then all of your fixtures and fittings have overflow protection, and you have a preformed shower base. That's another way
Not
to do it as well. Once again, no, it doesn't work for disabled. So yeah. So let's assume with this one that the reinforcing is far enough down our slab that we can do a quick cut saw in there, drop it 40 mil, chip it all out, and then redo it. So do it properly.
How much play is there normally in the screed like that? Can you just, by getting rid of that, almost then put a thinner layer instead of going into the concrete, just get that set down enough by just taking out the screed and.
Oh, taking out the old screed?
Yeah.
Well, typically, if there's a screed in place, well, then that's typically going to be enough.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. If it was done, If it was done like that properly initially. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. anyhow, but let's just assume that we can do whatever we want there, and we're setting our bathroom down.
Yeah.
Basically, if there's a screed there in place, it was deep enough, or if we're cutting out the top and chipping it away. We'll keep it simple for ourselves. So you were doing that. Putting in a puddle flange. Puddle flange is basically just something that enables the water to bleed out of that screed. Any water that gets past the tiles can bleed out of the screed into the floor trap. But I'll show you those next week. Got to do a cross section of stairs with compliant aspects to be clearly portrayed. So goings, rises, width of stairs, heights of railings. So do you guys know that very well, or well enough to be able to push ahead with that, with that instruction? Yeah, as far as Rinku, you know that? Yeah. Okay. And then cross-section of lift with compliant aspects to be clearly portrayed and supported by specific clauses from NCC regarding lift type, width, height, lift clearance, button heights, door width, and access. So we'll be dealing with AS 1735, lifts for disabled. Be dealing with AS 1288 for disabled access in buildings, and then was it 2890.6 for disabled car parking.
If we search with disabled car park or with disabled access, so we will get the standards, right, with the help of them?
Yeah, what you can do, and you just go on the library. Well, yeah, do a Google search. There's actually on the Learn page, I think it's Industry Standards and Instructions. Oh. Well, I might have put it in products because it's sort of either one or the other. No, it's in the product section. There's a link to a company that provide a lot of information on disabled access. So this one, CAD and Revit accessible facilities. So from here you can get quite a lot of information about Australian standards for disabled access and some Revit panels, CAD blocks, etc. The bits and pieces. But yeah, you're dealing with those three standards, and I'll touch on those three standards.
What were they?
So 2890.6 for disabled car parking. But you'll also be referring to 2890.1 for standard car parking. So 0.6 and 0.1. You'll be looking at AS 1735 for lifts and AS 1288. I'd better check my memory on that. So no, it's not 1288. Sorry.
What one is it?
Disabled access.
I think it might be 1428.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. Yeah. AS 1428. So yeah, and I think the rest is fairly standard. So do some 3D views. Leave those ones to last. Door and window schedule. Any additional requirements set out by local council. Council development plan requirements. Complete required application forms, including power allocation. All these. So yeah. So that's all. Yeah. All fairly standard. for you, much like project one. So, yeah, any questions on that? Yeah. So yeah, for now, yeah, keep. So now it's about finishing off project one, getting that. So peer checking, designer consult, sending it to client, get it back to client, sending it to council, and done. But then, yeah, for you two doing building rules, consent stuff. Well, no, I guess you've got to get that project one finished anyhow, but then start thinking about. Well, next week we'll go into wet areas, etc., and start working on wet area details for project one. So I'd probably have also, if you get a bit of spare time, have a think about, have a look at building rules consent stuff for project one, get your head around that before next Monday's class, before we start looking into those details.
Just a question, does
Yeah.
anyone know how to put in a soffit?
Just the line.
Attach the soffit to the roof and then
We are starting with this project next Wednesday.
it is under roof.
So let's have a look at our program.
Yeah, I
But we
mean,
can-
ceiling,
We can go on with
the architecture,
the
roof.
first two assignments, because we know exactly how.
Exactly. You know,
Same as the
yeah.
last one.
Actually, 28,000.
Spot on, exactly. So you know what you're dealing with task one and task two. So yeah, so at the moment it's about how you want to split up your time for what you're going to be working on. So I suggest get things ready for that peer checking ASAP. Then once you're maybe waiting for peer checking or something like that, start working on this one, task one and task two. And then when you get that back, make some changes, send it to the building designer. If you're waiting around for stuff, do a bit more work on this one. Get that one on the board. So you'll be multitasking a little bit.
Too much of vision.
Yeah. What's that?
You don't know, it's just guessing. Yeah, well, let's have a look at that.
So
What
let's
happened
have
to
a
the West?
open that one up.
I did that.
So this is where we're at here. So look, yeah, if we're doing that building designer consultation on Monday, look, we're only a few days behind the schedule as it is anyhow. And then client consultations in a little bit over a week's time for. So we've got next Monday, then Wednesday, then the following Monday. Yeah, in 2 weeks' time, client consultations for project two in 2 weeks' time.
So we should be completely done with project one by this time next week.
Yeah, to make it easier for yourself. Yeah. Yeah.
So as far as feedback from the building designer consult, it depends obviously on where our drawing's at, but it's probably going to be within a few days of work.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. If you're 90% there at the point when you have that, well, you'll be 90% there by the time you get your feedback from peer checking, etc.
Yeah.
So it's only going to be small bits and pieces from the building designer. It's only if there's glaring compliance issues or something like that. Yeah. But, yeah. With project one, there won't be many changes at that point in time. Project two is where there's much more involved.